Hi, everybody. Today we are going to talk about the next essay assignment, the persuasive essay. So I have a few slides with the presentation that I'd like to go over with you, and then we'll look at a few things on the essay assignment directions that I want to highlight. So if you haven't read those directions yet, pause this video, go read those directions, and then come back and join us. Okay, so let's get started with this presentation that I have for you. So we're going to talk about what the persuasive essay is. We're going to talk about a couple things you need to keep in mind to make it convincing and effective. And then, as I mentioned, we'll look at some highlights on the essay assignment directions themselves. So let's get started. The persuasive essay, your third essay that you're writing for this class. In this essay, you are taking a position on a debate and supporting it with research. So, what exactly is this kind of essay, the persuasive essay? Well, it's an essay where you're arguing for one side of a debate. That's a little bit different than the expository essay, which was simply an informative essay. So in this paper, yes, you might be informing your audience of things. You might be teaching them something they didn't know, but you are also persuading them to a certain point of view. So your goal in this paper is to not only inform, but also persuade readers to agree with you, or at the very least, just consider your point of view on a debate. So the next question you're probably asking yourself is, okay, how do I choose a debate? Well, how do I know what to write on? Well, you have lots of possibilities. So let me give you a little guidance on how to decide your debate. First, the debate should relate to your expository essay topic. So I'm imagining that this persuasive essay kind of takes off where you left off in the previous paper and can expand on a topic that you've already started to get a little bit familiar with. Now, one thing that will help you, I think, is to broaden your brainstorming on your topic. So, for example, some of you wrote on running as a sport. Great topic. What you could do to help you brainstorm a debate for this paper is to not just think of running specifically, but maybe expand that to think about a larger debate affecting multiple kinds of sports. So for instance, perhaps you could think about the question, should athletes be allowed to use performance-enhancing drugs? It's a question that's been in the news a lot lately. So this is something that would apply to running, perhaps, but other sports as well. So this could be one way to broaden how you approach trying to figure out what to write about for this persuasive essay topic. Here's a second example. One of you wrote on playing the piano, interesting topic. Well, you can expand your focus in this paper. So maybe you would look at a question, one possibility could be the debate, should we increase funding to arts education in public schools? So that's a debate that relates not only to music instruction, but also art, drama, other arts related fields. So that's another example of how you can broaden your brainstorming so that it relates to your expository essay topic, but maybe is a little bit more general. That might help you as you try to figure out what topic to write on for your persuasive essay. Second, you want to make sure that the debate you choose has two legitimate sides. So let me give you an example. It would not be a very good debate to write a paper answering the question, is pollution good or bad? Because who's going to say pollution is bad? Hopefully no one. So that's not a good debate for an essay. But if you were interested in the environment, you could tweak that question that you're asking a little bit so that there would be two legitimate sides to the debate. So for example, you could ask instead, should consumers pay for plastic bags in order to reduce plastic waste? So this is a question that relates to the environment, but it's a much better debate because there's a valid argument for saying yes and for saying no. So your debate has to have two legitimate sides. And finally, this debate should be one that you and readers today hopefully care about. So the more invested, the more interested you are in the topic, probably the stronger your paper is going to be. So keep these three things in mind as you're trying to figure out what the debate could be that you write on for this persuasive essay assignment. Now let's talk a little bit about what you need to be thinking of to make your essay actually persuasive. So we're going to talk about three kinds of appeals that you can make to your readers. And make sure you take some good notes here because you're going to be quizzed on this tomorrow. I'm sneaky like that. Okay, appeal number one. In your paper, you want to appeal to your readers' logic or logos. This means you're using statistics and research facts to appeal to the logical, objective part of readers' brains. So appealing to logos, their logic, that's one thing you want to do. Second, you want to appeal to their pathos or their emotion. So using emotions like fear, anger, empathy to appeal to readers' hearts and minds is another important strategy for making your essay persuasive. And then finally, think about appeals to ethos. What that means is your credibility or your ethical standing as a writer and a thinker. So you want your readers to view you as trustworthy, as someone they can listen to, as someone that they can put their faith in. So to do that, you could refer to your firsthand experience if it relates to your topic. Refer to how much extensive research you've done on the topic you're writing about. Emphasize your honesty as a writer and a friend to the reader to establish your credibility. And also acknowledge counter-arguments. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, I want to show you examples of appeals to logos, pathos, and ethos. Let's look at an example of logos first. This is an excerpt from a government report by Ben Bernanke, written in 2010. Take a minute, read through this, and look at the ways in which Ben Bernanke is trying to appeal to his readers' logic or their logos. So as you can see in this excerpt right from the start, Ben Bernanke begins with statistics, talking about how household spending has grown in the range of 1% to 2%, and he's looking at some facts about what are the effects of the painfully slow recovery in the labor market. So his main goal here doesn't seem to be that he's trying to appeal to readers' emotions. He's trying to appeal to their logical brains, their minds, by giving us statistics and facts. Now, let's compare that to this example of pathos. Famous excerpt from I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. from 1963. Take a second and read through this excerpt and think about how King is specifically trying to reach his audience's emotions. So as you can see in King's excerpt, his goal here is to make people feel something. Think about the kind of language he's using. He talks about this quest for freedom, a quest that has left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. This is vivid, emotional language. So yes, he maybe is talking about some facts as well, but his ultimate goal here is to get his readers to feel something rather than have a logical approach to what he's trying to say. And then finally, let's look at an example of ethos. Here's an excerpt from then presidential candidate Barack Obama's acceptance speech in 2008. So read this and think about how Obama is trying to establish his credibility to the American people. So notice in this excerpt, Obama keeps the focus on him. I will end this war. I will rebuild our military. I will renew the tough, direct diplomacy. So he's keeping the focus on what he will do, and his goal is to establish a feeling of honesty, sincerity, of camaraderie with the listeners to the speech. Now, regardless of your political leanings and whether you like Barack Obama or not, you can see in this excerpt how he's working to create his ethos or credibility for his audience. So, thinking about logos, pathos, and ethos in your essay is what you want to do to make it as persuasive as possible. Now let's go on and talk a little bit more about counter-arguments. Counter-arguments are also one of the things that you can do to establish your credibility. So let's talk about how exactly you can do that in your paper. You should address at least one counter-argument, and these are points held by the opposing side of a debate. So the people who would disagree with you, who are from the other side, what would they say in support of their argument on the debate that you're writing on? I would suggest that you follow this nifty little thing I call the TSAT system. There are 4 steps. First, in your paper, this can be in the middle of a paragraph, that is supporting or explaining one of your ideas. It could be toward the beginning of your essay. There's different places where it could fit into your paper. You want to transition, that's the T, into a contrasting idea. So you have to have a good transitional word or phrase, something like, however, some people argue that. It signals to the reader, now you're looking at a counter-argument to your debate. Then state what that counter-argument is. They believe that. And be very clear and specific about one reason why the opposing side believes their side of the debate. 3, acknowledge your A. Acknowledge that it's a valid point. You could say something like, while they're right to point out that, or this is a legitimate concern, something that acknowledges, hey, even though I don't agree with them, they have some good ideas. They have some valid points. But number 4, make sure that you trump, there's your T, trump that point by explaining why your position is stronger. So even though you acknowledge they have a valid point, you come right back and say, despite that valid concern, they fail to take into account how, or they overlook how, or my position is stronger because. Always come back and emphasize why your side of the debate is, in your belief, stronger and why. So this TSAT system is something that I would recommend you follow in your paper because talking about the counter arguments further emphasizes your credibility as a writer. So I hope you found that helpful, talking about what exactly your goal is in this paper, how you can successfully make it persuasive, and that includes the 3 appeals and acknowledging and addressing counter arguments. So those are things to keep in mind as you're drafting and revising your essay when you get to that point. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull up the essay assignment directions that you've already read. I just want to highlight a few things on here. So let me go to the top of these directions. This essay is, I would estimate, is going to be about 1,500 words. So that's around 5 pages. It's the longest essay that we're writing in class. It is probably the most challenging because there's so many components to it. But once you're finished with this essay, then you can just coast to the end of the semester. I do want to draw your attention to the research requirements. You should have 3 to 4 scholarly research sources. You need to find that research in the library or the library's online databases. You can use one reliable website, especially if you need some current statistics. It's a good place to go. Usually websites that end in .edu or .gov are good places to look. But you need at least 2 articles from scholarly journals or chapters or essays from scholarly nonfiction books. And then finally, one thing I want to point out, as usual at the end of the essay assignment, this is a list of the things that I look for when I grade your paper. So you want to make sure that you read through this on your own before you turn in your final version to make sure that you're doing all of these things. So I hope that was helpful. If you have questions or you need some help at the brainstorming stage or later on as you're drafting your essay, please do reach out to me. I'm really happy to help in any way that I can. So that's all for today. Good luck brainstorming, and I'll see you later. Bye, everybody.